"You're really offering me $100 to sit in a cardboard box for 2 minutes?" I asked, the alcohol making my head feel like it was floating. The street performer grinned, his teeth yellowed and uneven. "That's right, you sit in the box for 2 minutes and you walk away $100 richer. What's the trick?" "There's always a trick," my friend Paul interjected, squinting at the performer. The guy didn't look like he had $100 to his name. His clothes were ragged, a fraying suit that looked like it had been scavenged from a dumpster. His eyes, though, there was something off about them. They were too bright, too aware. "No trick," the performer said smoothly. "The box is empty. You go in, you come out. 2 minutes pass, and the money's yours." "Let's see the cash," I demanded. Crossing my arms, the performer reached into his coat and pulled out a crisp, clean $100 bill. It looked out of place in his filthy hands as if it had been conjured out of thin air. "Still doesn't make sense," Paul muttered. "Why would you give someone money for something so easy?" The performer tilted his head, a smile playing on his lips. "Nothing is ever easy, my friend." He opened the box, revealing a dark, empty space. It was just a cardboard box, big enough to sit in, but not much else. Yet there was a sense of something ominous about it, like it was more than just a box. It felt like it was swallowing the light around it. "What's in it for you?" I asked, my voice wavering despite myself. He just shrugged. "Entertainment, perhaps. Or maybe it's a test. Who knows? The question is, do you have the guts to find out?" "Come on, Paul," I said, nudging him. "You always say you're up for a challenge. You gonna let a cardboard box scare you?" Paul hesitated, glancing at the box and then back at me. "I don't know, man. It feels wrong." "That's what makes it fun," the performer said, his eyes gleaming with a strange light. 2 minutes, that's all. In and out." Paul took a deep breath and stepped towards the box. He hesitated again, casting one last glance at me. "If this is some kind of prank, I'm gonna kill you." "No pranks," the performer assured. "Time is ticking though. Tick-tock, tick-tock." Paul shot him a glare, but then climbed into the box. He settled inside, pulling the flaps closed over his head. It was just a box, but as soon as Paul was inside, a chill ran down my spine. The air seemed to grow colder, the street quieter. It was as if the box had sucked the life out of everything around it. "Your time starts now," the performer said, pulling out an ancient-looking pocket watch. For the first few seconds, nothing happened. I stood there, watching the box, half expecting to explode or for some kind of confetti to pop out, but there was only silence. Then I heard a faint noise, like whispering. "Paul?" I called out. "You good in there?" No answer. The whispering grew louder, more insistent. It wasn't coming from the box, but from all around me. It was like the shadows were speaking, their voices cold and unintelligible. My heart started to race, and I took a step back. "Hey, let him out," I yelled at the performer. "Not yet," he replied calmly, his eyes never leaving the pocket watch. "He has to stay for the full 2 minutes." The box began to shudder, not violently, but just enough to make my stomach turn. I could hear Paul inside, his breathing quick and panicked. "Paul, get out," I shouted, but it was like he couldn't hear me. In came the screams. They were muffled, almost as if they were coming from somewhere far away, but they were unmistakably Paul's. The box was still shaking, the flaps bulging as if something was pushing against them from the inside, trying to get out, but they didn't open. I rushed to the box, trying to tear it open, but it was like trying to pull apart solid rock. My fingers slipped off the cardboard, which felt as cold and hard as ice. 1 minute, the performer said, his voice eerily calm amidst the chaos. "What the hell is happening?" I shouted, pounding on the box. Paul's screams turned into sobs, mixed with words I couldn't understand. He was talking, or maybe chanting, in a language I'd never heard before. The whispering from the shadows around us grew louder, almost like laughter. "Let him out now," I demanded, turning to the performer, but he just shook his head. "Time's almost up," he said, eyes glinting with an unnatural light. "This is the final test. If he can last, he's free." "Paul, get out of there," I yelled again, but my voice was drowned out by a sudden, deafening silence. The whispers stopped, and the box went still. 2 minutes, the performer said quietly. He snapped the pocket watch closed with a finality that made my blood run cold. The box flap slowly opened. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it would burst out of my chest. I expected to see Paul crawl out, shaken but alive, but the box was empty. Completely, utterly empty. I stumbled back, my mind racing. What Where is he? What did you do to him? The performer tipped his hat, his grin widening. He lasted 2 minutes. He passed the test. What test? Where the hell is Paul? I screamed, grabbing the front of the performer's coat. He didn't resist, just looked at me with those cold, knowing eyes. He's where he needs to be, he said cryptically, and with a flick of his wrist, he vanished. One moment he was there, and the next just gone, like he had never existed at all. I stood there staring at the empty box, my mind a whirlwind of terror and confusion. Paul was gone, and there was no trace of him. Just a cardboard box sitting on an empty street, silent and ominous. And the whispering, it never really stopped. I can still hear it now, creeping into my dreams, reminding me of that night, of the box, of the performer with eyes that saw too much. Sometimes I wonder, what would have happened if I had climbed into the box instead? Never imagined that working as a night guard in a grocery store would change my life forever. Desperation led me to apply for a strange job listing I found 2 weeks ago. Wanted to night guard at West Market, redacted PA. Shifts in 12 a.m., 6 a.m., pay $21 per hour. The moment I read it, something felt off. Why would a grocery store need a night guard when it was closed? Was the area really that dangerous? But I needed the money, so I didn't think twice. After a brief phone interview with a man named Clive, I was offered the position and scheduled to start 2 days later. When I pulled up for my first shift, I immediately understood why security was necessary. West Market was located in a dilapidated strip mall at the edge of town. Flickering streetlights cast eerie shadows over empty parking spots. In dusty windows of vacant stores lined the strip. It felt abandoned, forgotten, as if no one had been here in years. Yet here I was, about to begin a seemingly simple job. As I approached the building, I saw a woman rushing out of the store. She stopped in her tracks when she saw me. "You must be Aaron," she said, out of breath. "The new night guard?" "Yeah, that's me," I responded. She nodded quickly. "Clive left some instructions for you. They're on the conveyor belt at Register 1. Without waiting for a reply, she turned on her heel and darted towards the only other car in the lot. I tried to make small talk, but before I could get another word out, she was already speeding away. I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. As I stepped into the store, it looked completely normal. Bright fluorescent lights, a catchy tune playing softly in the background, and rows of neatly organized products. But I knew things weren't as ordinary as they seemed. I walked over to Register 1, where I found a neatly folded letter with my name on it. "Welcome to the West family, Aaron. Here are some guidelines for your shift. Please follow them carefully. Patrol the store every half hour. You can spend your downtime in the break room monitoring the cameras. Do not go down aisle 7. Do not even look at aisle 7. You hear knocking from the freezers in the frozen food section. Ignore it. If a shopping cart is left out, return it to the front of the store immediately. Occasionally, there will be a pool of blood in the meat section. Mop it up, but don't touch it directly. If you see a woman in the store, immediately go to the break room. Do not interact with her. If the music stops playing, go straight to the break room until it resumes. Under no circumstances should you leave early." It was the strangest set of instructions I'd ever received. A woman in the store, a pool of blood in the meat aisle. I read the rules several times trying to make sense of them. Maybe it was some elaborate hazing ritual or a test to see how well I could follow directions. Either way, I figured I should play along. Seeing at my phone, I saw it was 12:06. I'm time to start my first patrol. I began walking through the airily quiet store. Everything was in place except for the oddity of plastic sheets covering certain sections, most notably the meat aisle and the vegetable display. It gave the store an unsettling vibe, like something was deliberately hidden from view. As I made my way through, I forced myself not to glance at aisle 7, following the rules to the letter. But when I reached the frozen food aisle, I saw it, a lone shopping cart parked haphazardly in the middle of the aisle. My stomach twisted in irritation. Security guard or not, why was I cleaning up after lazy employees? Bumbling under my breath, I pushed the cart back to the front of the store. That's when I heard it, a faint sound barely audible over the music. It was a soft, distant cry. It sounded like someone crying. I froze. The store had been locked the entire time. There couldn't be anyone else inside. But what if a customer had been accidentally locked in before closing? Or worse, what if someone had broken in? "Hello?" I called out, and the crying got louder. It was unmistakable now, a woman's voice sobbing in desperation. My heart raced as I tried to pinpoint where it was coming from. My blood ran cold when I realized it was coming from aisle 7. The rules keep flooding back to me. Do not go down aisle 7. Do not look down aisle 7. My gut told me to stay away, but what if someone was hurt? I positioned myself just short of the aisle. "Hey, are you okay?" I called, trying to keep my voice steady. "Help me," the voice whimpered. Something wasn't right. The way the voice repeated the words, the tone, it sounded off like a broken record. My instincts screamed at me to stay back, but the voice continued to cry out, more desperately this time. "Please, help me." I clenched my fists, torn between following the rules and helping whoever was there. "If you come out of the aisle, I'll help you," I shouted. But the sobbing continued, louder and more frantic. That's when the footsteps started, heavy, slapping footsteps, racing towards me from aisle 7. My heart nearly stopped as I stood frozen in terror. Something was coming for me fast. I bolted. My feet carried me straight past the aisle and into the break room. The second I crossed the threshold, the footsteps stopped. Slammed the door behind me, gasping for breath, adrenaline still coursing through my veins. My body trembled as I stared at the security monitors, scanning for any sign of what had been in that aisle, but of course there was nothing. No sign of the woman, no figure chasing me. As I sat there, trying to calm myself, I glanced at the clock, 12:30 a.m. Time for my next patrol. I dreaded leaving the break room, but I knew if I didn't follow the rules, things could get much worse. If these stories send chills down your spine, make sure to hit that like button and share it with your fellow thrill seekers. Don't forget to subscribe for more tales that lurk in the shadows.